They're all on the menu. Okay, we are live. Before we get started, I guess we should address the elephant in the room, um,
Or lack thereof.
or lack thereof. Um, and that is that Pinky Don is not with us today. He's off doing academic things. So,
Wish him the
um,
best of luck, by the way.
yeah, we hope everything works out for him. But
So you got player 1, which is Red Fox, and player 2, which is me, Joy Moonstar.
that is correct. And we have a full itinerary today on BS Busters. So, or sorry, not BS Busters, Sci-Fi Power Hour
ish.
Yes. So I have right here. I will copy the outline for the program, which I mean it's really not that long, but I like. Believe it or not, I prefer things to be organized, even though I'm not a very organized person all the time. But
Hey, it
okay.
helps.
Yeah, it helps, especially when you're trying to get through something in a timely fashion. So we have the news of the week, which I mean, it's not a huge.
It's not a huge lot of news, but I got a facepalm at something.
Go ahead.
Telltale, seriously, why are you beating yourself up with a stick? You fired more employees, and you're trying to hire the people that you fired.
Yeah,
again?
There's something shady going on. There's something real shady going on. I don't know what it is. I'm not a scientist, but methinks there's something in the milk's not clean. I don't know what it is, but there's something going on.
Whoever's at the top, they're drinking some seriously weird stuff.
I mean, like it seems kind of weird. It just there's something going on, and the thing is like I don't have anyone on the inside to tell me what's going on, and I haven't there hasn't been enough information about what's coming out on over there. But I mean, it just seems real shady.
Yeah, and considering that I took a bit of business law in a sense to work for other classes, I actually know some of what that's going on, and it's looking kind of shady.
Yeah. It's very, very. There's something going on with some of the moves they've been making. They fired everybody, and now they're trying to hire enough people to get a game. It's just there's something going on.
Or even outsourcing for it, and that's really making me wonder how much red are they in.
Well, no, the thing that gets me is they said, well, the reason we couldn't do business anymore, and yet where are you getting the money to outsource this? Because that still takes money.
Yeah.
Even when you outsource, that still takes money. So,
which means that they got something under the table somewhere.
Either they're going into more debt in order to get this game out, in order to fulfill contractual obligations, or money was misappropriated any goddamn way. And and considering the bad management that they've been under, I mean, and how expensive can it be to make adventure game? It's not like they were making games that were graphically intensive or use lots and lots of resources. I mean, they were adventure games, but whatever.
These are storybook games.
Yeah. I mean, and to be fair, I mean, I said this earlier on another podcast. A lot of those games from Telltale were essentially
point and clickers.
No, they were licensed games. So any profit that they got, they had to give a cut to the license holder. So they're not going to get as much money. Like here's what people don't understand when they look at someone like EA, right? Everyone's like, well, EA, they hold the Star Wars license. Well, when you basically buy access to a license, you're renting it. You don't own that shit.
I was going to say, that's like trying to say that you own a rental car. And
yes, so
as everybody knows, you gotta pay the people that gave you the car in the first place.
Well, it goes even deeper than that. Depending on the contracts with licensing, especially licensing an IP for usage, not only do you have to pay for the initial license, but if you're making a product based on that license, you have to give a cut of that of the revenue generated from that product to the license holder. So, I mean, that's why people are like, well, why did Star Wars Battlefront have all those microtransactions? Because that's how EA was going to make their money. They weren't really making money off the sales of
the game itself.
Yeah, they were maybe making $5 or $10 for everything, but with the microtransactions, that's how they were making their money. I mean, the Star Wars license is good, but it's not like
It's not
gangbusters. Yeah,
it's not the golden goose.
no, not unless you really know what you're doing. Which is why the Lego games were more profitable because the Lego games were cheap to make, and the Lego Star Wars games were cheap to make, and they were lower budget, but you got a lot of Traveler's Tales got money out of it. Yeah, they got money out of it. But that's neither here nor there. So basically, the other news of the week is this. Speaking of Star Wars, so Jon Favreau announced that, or I should say, Disney announced via LucasArts that Jon Favreau, what he's working on, the Star Wars series that he's working on, is called The Mandalorian. That's all we know. It's about the Mandalorians. I guess that's cool. I don't know.
I'm just gonna say, I hope they know what they're doing this round.
Yeah, it's like I want it to be good, but it's like Star Wars has kicked me in the nuts so many times that I can't necessarily, you kick me in the nuts once, that might be a mistake. You kick me in the nuts 3 times, then.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that the 7th through 9th generation of Star Wars, it's looking a lot worse than what 1 through 3 was.
And the prequel is not very good, but I mean, this is worse than the prequel, which is, I never thought I would say that there's something coming out of Star Wars that's worse than the prequels, and yet
this happens.
Yeah, because the prequels were bad. Like let me put it this way: the original trilogy isn't perfect; it's pretty good. The prequel trilogy is basically like having constipation. Okay, it's like it has to come out. It's really hard, but you got to get through it. And I say this because if you're a Star Wars fan, you like to see that history of how, the prequel was the only place you could go. It's like, well, how did things get so bad? Like, how did things get to this point that you see in the beginning of the original trilogy? Well, you do the prequel, which, I mean, whether you like the prequel or not, it really does adequately state how things got so bad.
Yeah, and even though it was not the best, it actually gave a lot of backstory to some characters that we wish we knew.
Well, I mean, I would say it gave the backstory. It gave backstory to characters that didn't need a backstory, and it gave a backstory to a character who, I mean, is the #1 villain of all time and made him into a whiny little bitch. Like, literally, at the end of Revenge of the Sith, I was so happy when Anakin Skywalker slid down that little lava bank and got ignited on fire. I was like, thank God, because after this is over, he'll turn into Darth Vader. But never was I happier that someone was being immolated. But anyway, which is a horrific thing. But I mean, really, after having to watch little baby Anakin Skywalker try to hit on a 16-year-old girl when he's like 10, and
he's reaching high at least,
and that bullshit ass and the bullshit ass acting love story that they tried to do in Attack of the Clones, and finally when he killed the younglings in Revenge of the Sith. I mean, we finally got to see Anakin Skywalker die and Darth Vader be born. And it was a good thing because, man, was I tired of Anakin Skywalker. I was happier when he was just an abstract vision. Well, just an abstract concept. You knew he was the father of Luke and Leia, Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa, and that's all you needed to know. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, your thoughts on the Star Wars news of the new TV show? I mean, what do you think?
I'm hoping it works, but if anything, I'm at least glad to know that they're still trying, but it's not giving much confidence.
You're you're not very you're not very hopeful that this is going to be a turning point for the franchise.
I'm hoping that at least does something right in this in this um in this future generation. No. But if anything, hopes are low.
Okay. I mean, everyone is entitled to their opinion, and that's how we roll around here. So
Yeah.
I guess we can move on to the second little bit of news this week.
Huh?
Star Trek Discovery showed off the new Spock with a beard. I don't particularly give a shit, but there you go. They're releasing a new a series of little like vignettes called short treks.
Go on.
And I mean, like they've only released one thus far, and a lot of people don't like it. So, I mean, I haven't watched it because I hate watched the original season of Star Trek Discovery, and I was like, man, fuck this. So I don't know how other people feel about it, but that's how I felt about it. So, what are your thoughts about this Star Trek news? Oh, wait. Oh, snap. She must be gone. Okay, so I'll keep it going. So basically, Star Trek has come out with a new. The new Spock looks a little bit different. I will show a picture of the new Spock, Ethan Peck Spock. So, and screen share so people can see what we're seeing. So yeah, this is Ethan Peck Spock. There you go. Not really giving a shit about this, but there you go, folks. The new Spock. Uh, I mean, looks kind of shitty to me, but that's just me. So yeah, I mean, personally, I don't really give a shit. But I mean, if you like Star Trek Discovery, this might be news to you. I am not in love with Star Trek Discovery, so I probably don't care. So, but if you're into it, there you go, folks. I guess we can move on to the next little bit of news. Here's some news for you. I was at a screener, a preview screener, an early screening of Venom Thursday night, and my God, that movie is bad. I mean, it is a steaming pile of dog shit. Tom Hardy is good, but I mean, Tom Hardy can't carry a movie. People keep on forgetting that Tom Hardy cannot carry a movie, but he can't. And people just don't seem to understand that. So, I guess I can give you. I'm gonna spoil Venom for people who have not seen it. It's a movie about the titular Spider-Man villain that makes no references to Spider-Man. That has a version of Eddie Brock that really doesn't work, and has perhaps the most wooden version of another Spider-Man villain that I've ever seen. It's pretty damn bad. And I mean, like, I personally would have felt embarrassed by the game. I mean, by the movie. Personally speaking, I was like, "This is the shit. This is what you're doing, Sony. This is what you're doing." At this point, there's nothing we can really say except Sony, you're fucking up. You're really fucking up, and you just it doesn't look like it's gonna stop anytime soon, Sony. It doesn't look like it's gonna stop anytime soon. Personally, I wish Sony would stop trying to force something that's just not going to happen. You're not gonna make a you're not gonna make a Spider Universe, all right? Not with fucking Venom in it. You're not. It's not gonna happen. So stop. Just please stop. Just please, 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 for the love of everything holy, stop. All right, because it's not gonna happen. But hey, you know, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. You know, maybe I'm a Yahoo. But it seems that people don't seem to understand this, that Sony just can't stop fucking up Marvel properties that they have IPs for. It's kind of sad because, you know, I mean, like, they fucked up Spider-Man and now they're fucking up. They're fucking up. They fucked up Venom. And I mean, I don't think Marvel's going to bail them out on this one. At least I hope they don't. So basically, the Venom movie is kind of mediocre. If you do get any enjoyment out of it, it's going to be for the wrong reasons because it's so fucking stupid. But the worst part about the film is that at the very end, they have two post-credit stingers, okay? Both of which are really shitty. The first one, how's it going, Jewel?
Sorry, I had to be tech support.
Okay, then. But Venom has two post-credit stingers, both of which are kind of shitty, but for completely different reasons. The first post-credit stinger is they are going to tease Woody Harrelson in the shittiest red wig ever. I mean, this wig is shitty. This wig looks like something that you would find in the back of an elementary school class.
I was about to say, I thought a clown would be embarrassed to wear that.
It was this shitty red wig that you would find in the back of an elementary school class. It was just like desperately trying to like in their costume section of an elementary school, okay? And I don't mean like junior high, like close to junior high where you get a little.
We mean the first and third graders.
Yeah, I'm talking a really shitty red wig, okay? Like they could have done better than this shit. And he's like, well, I'm just going to have to get out of here and sow some carnage. Man, fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
The comics did better storylines than that.
Yeah, yeah. But, I mean, let's not forget, this universe isn't big. Like they cannot connect this to Spider-Man.
They can't connect it to Spider-Man, but we're getting the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, so like how the fuck can here's my problem with Venom. How the fuck are you gonna do a movie about a Spider-Man villain and you can't
include Peter Parker
and connect it to Spider-Man? That's where you fucked up, Sony. But anyway,
that's the big F up.
That's the first.
I mean, the second zinger is probably even worse than the first.
Well, the second zinger is them. Meanwhile, in another part of the Spider-Verse, they're that new movie that's coming out in December, Into the Spider-Verse, where you've got Miles Morales and all these different alternate reality versions of Spider-Man coming together. You know what? I'm not gonna watch that shit just so that Sony can't get my money, so that the rights, they'll just sell all the shit back to Marvel and we'll get quality again. Okay? Because I'm done.
I would make the joke that they're also trying to do that with the Fantastic Four, but
well, that's Fox. Fox is the one who ran Fantastic Four into the ground. But I mean, it's the same thing. It's like, look, listen, okay. If you like, did no one learn their lesson from Warner Brothers with the DCEU? We're gonna create our own cinematic universe. Look, it took Marvel
ages.
like over a decade to build their cinematic universe. Okay, a fucking decade. And here's the thing. Okay, they have Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige under him has a team of people that whose sole job is to read the comics and pull out storylines and craft them together in order to bring them to the silver screen. Okay, I'm pretty sure you don't have people like that over at Sony and Fox doing the same damn thing. All right, I'm reasonably certain. Okay, because if you did, your movies would be better. Okay.
I think I get you, and I just have to wonder, where is the intelligence level in this place?
So yeah, and Venom is on track to make 10 million this weekend.
10 million? I thought it was 8 million.
Well, 10, 8, but here's the thing. It's going to go down next week. And I don't think it's going to make its budget back because it doesn't deserve to make its budget back because it's a shitty movie. It is bad. Okay. It's and the people who are like, yeah, I laughed in it. You laughed at the wrong shit because it's not a good movie. This movie would have been acceptable in 2003 when Ang Lee's The Hulk and that shitty Daredevil movie from Fox with Ben Affleck came out. This movie would have been perfect with those films. But we've come a long way since then. We have better choices. We have better shit that's come out.
We got quality.
Yeah, there's some quality to it. I mean, hell, Black Panther came out this year, and that's a good movie. I mean, you know, better than anything coming from Sony. But I mean, yeah. Fuck that movie. Fuck it. The other little bit of movie news is from The Predator, where Shane Black is like basically got mad because the female lead on the movie, Olivia Munn, whom I'm going to be honest, I never thought she was a good actress, but she's okay. She's pretty good in the movie. She's competent. Basically said, like, why would you why would you fucking have me working with a convicted child sex offender? Well, a convicted child sex offender, you know. And I'm hearing people say, well, don't you believe in second chances? Yeah, I believe in second chances, but
there's limits.
Like, here's the thing, okay? Like, Shane Black's like, I wanted to help my friend out. Okay, here's what you do. You hire him on to be like the guy who goes and gets coffee or helps out at the craft services table. You don't have this motherfucker. First of all, you have a kid that's working on that movie. There was a kid on that movie, a kid actor. Child sex offenders shouldn't be near children any goddamn way. I know people say, well, he sent illicit emails to a 14-year-old girl. Yeah, but studies have shown that child molesters who molest girls will also molest boys. So, like, I mean, look at Larry Nassar. I mean, he molested a lot of female gymnasts, but he molested male gymnasts too. You know, I mean, he was a sick fucker all around. So, I mean, my point is this: do you think her aversion and her bringing up this information is fair?
Makes me wonder where the intelligence level is when they were doing hiring.
And whose fault is it? I mean, like, do you think it is? Because, I mean, personally, I think the fault should lie with Shane Black. Like, because he really was just like, I want to help my friend out. Dude, your friend is a fucking child sex offender. He's a registered child sex offender. I mean, here's the thing, okay? Like, I'm all for people like, yeah, you paid your dues. I don't want to be around a child sex offender. I don't want to
Yeah,
be around
but
someone
here's
who's
the
a
thing. I
convicted
was going to
rapist.
say whoever whoever ignored common sense when the when saying that this guy should get a second chance should be getting the axe.
Well, I mean, okay. To be fair, look, listen. Um, like, okay, the dude went to jail. The dude did his time. Fair enough, okay? And you know, people have to make a living, okay? Fair enough. But I'm just saying there was better ways to handle Shane Black helping his friend out other than the way
Getting him
this.
into a movie.
Well, yeah, put him in the movie and then not telling people, yeah, he's a convicted child sex offender. Because that, I mean, look, listen, okay, it's none of my business if someone is if someone, you know, is a polka lover, or they like records, or they like jazz, or you know, they were a child of molestation or something. Like I don't, you know, that's your business. But people kind of need to know, especially when you have children on set, that someone is a convicted child sex offender. Like, people need to know that. I mean, to quote Dr. Evil in to paraphrase Dr. Evil in Austin Powers, I'm the boss. I need the info, people. You know, need the info. This is pertinent information. You know,
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have info, you can't do sheep.
you know. Oh well. Look, listen. I mean, and then to like have this person who's a convicted child sex offender. Yeah, I got him a bit part. Why? Why, Shane? No, Shane. No, no. Maybe him helping out at craft services, him being a gopher, him being a personal assistant and like fucking like answering phones and taking down like messages. Okay, fair enough. Him interacting with people, no, because like here's the thing. Okay, look, I understand. Yes, he was convicted. He did his time. He got out. He hasn't been doing it since. Okay, fair enough. But there are people who are very uncomfortable being around people like that.
And
You know
that
what I
I can
mean?
understand.
It's like I would be uncomfortable being around someone who's a murderer, even if they got out of jail and they were like, "Yeah, I did my time. I did my 20 years, and I'd never do that again." Yeah, but you fucking killed somebody, bro. I don't want to
Serious.
be around your ass, because you is crazy. You crazy, son. You crazy. You know.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what we're dealing with here, folks. That's what we're dealing with. But I guess we can move on to the next little bit of the next bit of our program. Let me go to. Um, so we're at the main topic. I think we've done with the. So basically, there are people who are tired of Star Trek and Star Wars bullshit. They're mad with the the continuous bastardization of Star Wars and the bastardization of Star Trek. So here's some alternatives to those two um, franchises. So here we go. Um, so basically, here are two alternatives to. Here's some alternatives to. Well, uh, those IPs, if you will. And the first one is Farscape. Farscape is a really, really good is a really good show. And basically, I mean, Farscape ran for about for 4 years, and then they did a movie to tie it up because the fourth season kind of ended on a big ass cliffhanger. It ran from 1999 to 2003, and I mean, personally, I love Farscape. It was one of my favorite shows. And the premise behind Farscape was basically this Earth astronaut gets caught in a wormhole and is flung into
another universe.
Well, I mean, he's thrown. He's in the same universe, but he's in another part of the universe, like a totally another part of the universe, maybe even in another galaxy. And so basically, like the cool thing about Farscape is that Farscape is, for lack of a better word, is essentially like it's the polar opposite of Star Trek, right? Like Star Trek, all the characters are ultra competent and, okay, except Discovery where everyone's a fuck up. But in most normal Star Trek series, everyone does their job well, more or less. You know what I mean? Like the captains do their job, the first officer does his job, the science officer does his job, the medical officer does his job, engineering does his job. Like everyone does what they have to do in order to get the job done, Not Farscape. In Farscape, the crew of Farscape are a bunch of losers. Okay? Like, or I should say, the main character.
He's Crichton. Something else, right?
The main character, Crichton, is an asshole. He's a loser. He's a homeless loser because he's trying to get home. And like the running joke, like basically, but here's the thing, okay? Like the crew of the Farscape the ship they're on is called Moya. Moya. And the series is called Farscape. But basically, because the ship that John Crichton used to get into the wormhole is called Farscape. And like the reason it's called Farscape is because he was testing this thing where you could basically use the gravitational pull of a planet in order to slingshot, in order to slingshot around a planet in order to reach speeds that are higher than any normal velocity that they'd seen in a ship. But he gets caught in a wormhole, winds up going to another part of the galaxy, and the series begins. But basically, the crew of Farscape are a bunch of losers, okay? You've got John Crichton, who is a scientist. He's like a modern astronaut. Modern astronauts are more scientists than military men. Back in the day, they were more military men than scientists. But now they're all basically scientists. And so John Crichton's a scientist, but he's an Earth scientist. So, his science is way behind everyone else's. You have Ka Dago, who's the captain of the ship, who's a Luxan, which is a race of warriors who suffer from hyperaggression.
They get angry pretty easy.
Oh yeah. There are many episodes in Farscape where John Crichton has to hide because Dago has gone fucking batshit insane. There's Pa'u Zan, who's basically kind of like a very kind of open about her sexuality plant woman, blue plant woman who's like 6'1" with no hair on her head, and she's pretty badass actually. She's also a plant person, so she does plant shit.
Among other things.
Yeah. Let's see, what else? Who else? There is Rigel the Third, who is well, he's a Muppet because this show was the creature special effects were done in conjunction with the Henson Workshop, so by Brian Henson. So yeah, Rigel is a Muppet who's a greedy, selfish little piece of shit who, over the course of the 4 seasons and movie that they did, like grows into a better person. But initially, he's just a real asshole. Then there's Pilot, who is also an ass. Well, Pilot is more concerned about the ship. Moya, a biomechanical living ship. And oh yes, Aaron Sun, Crichton's love interest, but not initially. Basically,
He
in
probably has
other,
to earn it.
well, yeah, he does earn it. Other members join the crew, but yeah, Crichton is utterly inferior to everyone else. There's a running gag about how inferior he is. There's an episode where basically this guy, this person, this being, who is blind, is essentially keeps on pulling the ship closer to this sun that's about to go supernova, and like everyone starts acting weird except for Crichton. And the only reason he isn't acting weird is because his eyesight is like the worst of the crew. And there's this gag where they're like, well, what does that fountain say? And he looks at it, he's like, the joke's on you, the fountain doesn't say anything. And they start laughing at him because his eyesight's really fucking shitty. Or the reason a certain mind control thing doesn't work on him is that his brain isn't advanced enough to deal with it. Like it can't interact with his brain. Like it's a very Farscape is a very good show.
It's a silly gag that kind of makes sense because it means that he can get away with something that the others can't
by virtue of him being basically a savage. But yes, Farscape is a very good alternative to Star Trek. And personally, I would love for the show to come back. To be brought back. It would be in today's day and age where people love fucking having dark, gritty TV shows with sex and violence. It would be perfect as a Netflix type show, 13 episodes a season, and done with a relatively decent budget. Because Farscape,
with some kind of modest budget that has its that have its limiters removed, kind of like that.
Well, I mean, Farscape always dealt with kind of edgy material. It always kind of like within a PG-13 rating, it always kind of
managed to do something that reaches beyond its limit.
Yeah, like okay. There's an episode in one of the later seasons where the crew changes up. It changes up every season or so. Like new people are added, other people go away. But they get caught in this thing where they're trying to get something for the ship, and in order for it to go down, they have to eat these mollusks, which basically split off into 2 people. But what one person feels, the other person feels. And so basically they wind up feeling things that someone else in the crew feels. And so basically Dago, who's the ultra muscular, masculine fighter captain of the ship, he basically switches with this old lady they wind up picking up during their adventures for some random reason, which is never explained. That's one of the things I like about Farscape. Weird shit happens. There's no explanation. And the old lady in her kitchen, in her quarters, decides to have a little fun time with herself. and
good night, everybody.
And Cardago's is on the planet's surface, trying to conduct a meeting, and some shit goes down, and the people with him like, "Are you okay, Dago?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm great. I'm fine. Matter of fact, I've never been better." he's having a very interesting experience. And
I'm
then
trying
once
not
it's
to
all
laugh hard
over, he's
because
just like,
that is
oh,
that's so many degrees of
oh,
WTF and
okay,
hilarity because he he's feeling something that he never thought he'd feel on in the worst kind of place to
not from
do.
a female perspective. But I mean, like I said, look, listen, Farscape took it as far as you can go on a PG-13 rating, but there was a lot of sex in Farscape. It was like literally, it would be perfect to do since people like Star Trek Discovery and they're like, I like the sex and the violence. Farscape, if they brought it back, would be perfect for that dark, gritty sex and violence and comedy and well written and creature special effects. It would be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, there's something for everybody in that kind of show.
Yeah, basically. Do you have any science fiction shows that would be an alternate for people who are burnt out on Star Trek and Star Wars and they want something a little bit more?
I would recommend if it's still if they're still kind of airing it in somewhere, Futurama, but that's a little bit iffy.
Mm,
I say it's iffy, not
no, I
perfect.
just went. I mean, how can I
And
put
I
this?
know that there's better stuff out there.
No, I like Futurama. I would love to see another Futurama, but
I can hear I can hear a butt there, so you could come out and shake it.
no. I like the thing that makes me go okay. Like I'm a little like iffy on it is like Futurama wrapped up in such a nice way.
Package.
Do I want to mess that up by going further? Now, what they could do is say, in the future, Fry and Leela had a kid. You know what I mean?
I could get that. I'm just saying that if you I mean watching the old Futurama and if they ever start a new one, that could actually be grounds to enjoy something that could bring back memories if it is done right.
I, personally, I like Futurama. I think Futurama is one of the better made animated series. I would actually love to see another Futurama, but or
Iffy.
bring those characters back. Like like have the kids uh have uh uh have Hermes' kid and 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 Fry's grandnephew, great grandnephew's kid, and
Fry's
Fry and Leela have
Fry's relationship is off in a weird place because well, trying to figure out where where he is in the family line is like trying to find a
he's
roadmap.
his own grandfather because he went back in time. He's his own grandfather because his grandfather was gay. The person he accepted as his grandfather, so he's his own grandfather. Which also means that he is not only is he Professor Farnsworth's uncle, he's also his grandfather. So he's his own grandfather. Like that old joke. But basically, no. I think they could totally do a Futurama, another series of Futurama. Maybe like have the main characters from that one a little bit older, not like ultra old, but a little bit older, and like
Yeah.
like the kids are a little bit older and they go on their own adventures. Like Bender builds a kid because he feels left out. He's like, I want a kid. He builds a kid.
Leave the Bender to do something dumb or
Yeah,
chaotic.
yeah. But yeah, that'd be cool. I would personally love that. um, and you know, uh, I mean, I would love a series two of Futurama. So another alternative to Star Trek that I put on my list was Babylon 5.
Oh, I heard that one. It was pretty. That actually turned out pretty good, and it's kind of a weird one to taste at first glance when you're kind of in the middle of it.
Yeah. I would tell anyone, don't watch Babylon 5 in the middle. If you get a chance, if you ever get a chance to binge it, start with season 1 and then work your way up. I'm lucky that I have the physical copies and I digitized my physical copies of Babylon 5 and Farscape. So I have both the digital and physical versions of that, but they're not in high def or anything. They're in standard definition because high def wasn't big back then, and no one's ever going to pay the money to
upgrade graphics,
upgrade the graphical fidelity of all that shit, which is sad because Babylon 5 is actually a really good show. Now, Babylon 5 came on around the same time as Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And both of them have similar premises. Basically, you have an indigenous species that was subjugated by another species that eventually was driven out. And there's a space station where people are trying to keep the peace, a war. Like, there's a lot of similarities between the two things, but Babylon 5 does something a little bit different because it's a very kind of almost dystopian take on things where some really fucked up shit happens, but a lot of it is a mirror of what's happening in our world right now, like corrupted political leaders and shadow maneuvering, corporations having way too fucking much power, nationalist movements that go up against people who are different. It's Babylon 5 is still a really good show. And I would advise anyone to watch it. The first season is good. The second season is better. The third season is even better than that. All the way up to the fourth season, where they thought they were going to get canceled, so they wrapped everything up in the fourth season, which kind of kills it because they got renewed. And the fifth season's where they just were like, okay, we got these loose ends we can tie up.
If anything, I don't blame them for trying to push everything into one season because they were kind of in panic.
Yeah, but the thing is like some stories feel kind of rushed. Like it like this could have marinated a little bit more and would have been a little bit, more tastier when you finally consumed it. But
yeah, I mean, but you can't blame the guys that tried to put some effort into it.
Oh no. One of the cool things about Babylon 5 is that unlike a lot of TV shows, Babylon 5 is unique because the showrunner who created it stayed on and saw the whole thing through. It was very well planned out. Something you do not see in a lot of science fiction shows where, the showrunner leaves and then a new one comes in and the tone changes. You know how The Walking Dead, some seasons are good, some seasons are shit, and it's a roll of the dice of what you get. Not so with Babylon 5. The same guy who started it was with it till the end. John Michael Straczynski, or JMS. He does comic books. I think he worked on Star Trek for a little bit. Like, the dude has serious sci-fi cred.
Which goes quite a long way.
Oh yeah, like me personally, like, people might not know this about me, but when it comes to me and science fiction, I think people who have been writing science fiction are the only ones who should be allowed to write science fiction, because science fiction is not like other genres of writing. Like, if you wrote a daytime sitcom, you can write other shit too. But if you took someone who wrote a daytime sitcom and then threw them into science fiction, they're not going to be good at that, because science fiction demands a certain level of
competence.
Well, you need to know how to write science fiction. It's a specialized form of writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not everyone has that skill. And I mean, you take one fucking look at Star Trek Discovery, you can tell not everyone has that skill to write science fiction. Do you have alternative to Star Trek or Star Wars?
I really don't, but if anything, I actually try to be curious about it, because at times I do try to watch some of the old Star Treks or Star Treks, yeah. But if anything, I haven't gotten the drive to watch any Star Wars, or at least anything that can be related to it.
All right. I guess I can give my thing. Here's an alternate to Star Wars, and Star Trek, but this is more akin to Star Wars. For those people who want a dark and gritty, because people always want dark and gritty, these days. I'm talking about The Lex. Now, The Lex was a Canadian science fiction TV show that initially was like a series of like little movies. Well, not little; they were actually like 90 minutes. And they were when I first saw The Lex, I saw it on Showtime. So it was unrated. It had sex and violence, and actually, it was pretty damn good.
It was pretty graphic.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't ultra graphic, but I mean, like, okay, in the opening of the very first movie of the series, like, basically, you see these group of warriors fighting this desperate battle against their antagonist called the Shadow, which is like, there's a whole backstory to the Lex, but basically there's two universes that are in parallel with each other. There's the universe of the light and the universe of the dark. And the universe of the shadow. And the universe of the shadow is where Earth is, like our reality. The universe of the light is where the shadow, the shadow, which is the ultimate protagonist of like 3 of the 5 seasons of the Lex, basically makes his power. And so there's this prophecy that the shadow will be destroyed by the Brudan G. So the opening of the first episode, you have this massive war, and this entire planet is just destroyed, and it's kind of fucked up. From there, just
not effed up.
Yeah, from there things just get worse. I mean, in the beginning of the series, you see a poor man, a woman get turned into a sex slave. But it doesn't quite work out because there's a malfunction. There's like a prison break, and she's supposed to have her mind wiped. But this thing called a
scrubber.
This thing called a cluster lizard.
Oh.
Basically, like her mind's supposed to be wiped, and she's supposed to have her personality imprinted with the sex slave programming. But because there's a prison breakout, the cluster lizard gets decapitated in the chamber where she's supposed to get mind wiped. So, and it doesn't quite work all the way. So she's got some sex programming plus the mind of a cluster lizard, which is this vicious creature that eats brains and is very vicious. And plus her original personality. So she manages to get out and fuck up a lot of shit. It's that's the opening of the thing. The main character of the series, your titular hero, is this guy named Stanley Tweedle, who's he's a janitor, and he's gonna be killed because he was late to his job.
Talk about strict time restrictions.
Oh yeah. It's a dark show. Like people, like, one of the punishments for the people in the beginning of the show is in the beginning, in the first movie, is a guy has to donate his all of the protein in his body to the super weapon that they're creating in order to control the sectors that the Shadow controls, called the Lex, the titular Lex, which is this giant dragonfly-looking spaceship without the wings that has no defenses except for one super weapon. It can create this energy wave that can destroy planets.
Something.
Yeah, like a Death Star, but way more fucked up looking. And that's the Lex. But basically, yeah, it's a pretty good show. It's dark, it's gritty, it has sex, violence, death. Tim Curry appears in one of them. But the cast is very interesting. You have Stanley Tweedle, who's a loser, He once was part of a revolutionary group that tried to overthrow the Shadow, but he was tortured and he turned against his friends, and they all died, most of them. But now he somehow got the key to become the captain of the Lex, so he now controls like arguably the most powerful weapon ever created in 2 universes. But he's a selfish, amoral, only looks out for himself asshole. You have Zev 6, which is, I mean, like I said, she's got the training of a sex slave, the part of the mental instincts of a cluster lizard. They also have another person on their crew, Kai, the last of the Brunanji, who basically got wiped out because there was a prophecy that they would kill the Shadow. So the Shadow, in order to prevent the prophecy, just destroyed their fucking planet. But the last of the Brunanji, Kai, was turned into an undead assassin who just goes around killing people that the Shadow wants killed.
Kind of their own mistake.
Yeah, Zev totally wants to have sex with Kai, but every time she comes onto him, he's like, "I'd like to, but I'm dead." Yeah, it's a really it's weird. The
Weird
Lex
is
is
putting it
a
lightly.
weird TV show, and then they syndicated it and turned it into a TV show, which kind of tamed it down a little bit, but it still was really fucking weird. I like the Lex. It's one of those TV shows where I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good. Not great, but pretty good.
It's like trying a good burger that you know is not fantastic, but it works, right?
In terms of the Lex, well, the Lex isn't for everybody. If you like a dark, if you like science fiction with a darker tone and a darker sense of humor, which I think people are going with nowadays, the Lex is for you. My only other choice is like I got I got 2 more, but I mean, do you have any that you would recommend for people who are burnt out on Star Trek or Star Wars?
That's kind of hard for me because if anything, I I'm more into the animation wise, and some of those are kind of iffy with some people. But I think I could recommend would be Gundam, but that would be iffy for many.
Okay, fine then. I'll give you some alternatives that are animation. Battleship Yamamoto, aka the Harlock Saga. They've redone this saga so many goddamn times in Japan. It's not even funny. You can find like I think the original version came out in like 79, 80, and then they did another one in like 86, 87. Then they did another one in the 90s, and then in the early 90s, and then another one in the late 90s, and they did another one in the aughts, and now they're doing another one now. It's a space opera. I mean, you know, it basically exemplified the Japanese style of space opera where everyone's wearing outrageously kind of stupid, impractical uniforms. You know what I'm talking about, where they've got like the captain's hat and epaulets and all this shit all on them. It's like that's totally impractical for.
If anything, it's for show.
I mean, I understand it's based on the Japanese sensibility, which the Japanese like the Harlock Saga was built from like out of people who were used to seeing the Japanese military, and that's what they wore. And their dress uniform was like that, so I can understand that. But like, as someone who comes from the West, where we have like Star Trek, where the uniforms are like, yeah, that looks cool. It's also practical.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the, you know,
it kind of makes you say, "Was that really necessary?"
It's like if that console explodes and wires come out, it's gonna get cotton on them. All that braiding and shit. I'm the captain. The captain smokes a pipe, you know, it has a impressive mustache or some shit, you know. I mean, like, listen. If that's what you want, that's what you want. If you want something that's a little bit shorter and easier to get into, Outlaw Star, That's a good one.
Oh, both of us I can recommend Outlaw Star on that one.
I mean, it has a main character who sleeps with everybody. The only person he doesn't sleep with on the ship is Jim. But everyone else on that ship has
it's
had
fair
the
game.
Gene Starwind experience. The Gene Starwind experience. But yeah, that's a good alternative to animated alternative to, you know, you want your space travel. I wonder why. Another good one is Van Dread Stage 1 and 2. Those are pretty good. It's about a group of colonists who escape from Earth, wind up separating, finding two habitable planets, separate into two societies that are gender oriented. So one society is all women and the other society is all men. And the way they reproduce is the women basically take a stem cell from a woman and then implant that in another woman's ovum in her uterus, and that's how, like, it's almost like normal reproduction. The men just make clones that have the combined DNA of two men, and it creates a baby. Well, I mean, technically, you could do that now. Our technology.
I know our technology's there, but as I said, that is some weird science to even think about.
The first one they've already done, where you take a stem cell and put it in an egg, an unfertilized egg. They've already done that. It's just they've taken it to the next step and used DNA from another person. So instead of you getting a clone, it's a child.
It's a hybrid.
Yeah, it's a child. Just instead of an XY, it's an XX. So that's why they have all women. But basically, the whole point behind Van Dread is that one of the original colonists who was in cryogenic stasis awakes early, and he's the main character, Hibiki Tokai, or, you know, since Tokai Hibiki, if you want to pronounce it correctly, but in Japanese, when they typically
it's last name first and
last name first, first name last. So for me, I just call them, you know, like Kiryu Kazuma, even though in the thing it's Kazuma Kiryu. But anyway, Hibiki Tokai winds up basically getting caught on a ship that the male planet turned into a warship, which is attacked by the pirates of the system, which are all women, and they have these propaganda things about how women will kill men and everything. And it's a comedic action mecha anime, where everything is just a metaphor for sex, because Hibiki,
all that tension.
Well, the thing is that Hibiki, the big thing about the anime is that Hibiki's big thing is that he can combine with like the male, the women, the weapon that the men use is called a van, which is basically like this it's this humanoid looking mech that they fly around in. And he worked in a factory, and he basically put his name on this one van, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go prove that this is the one that's gonna be shipped. And that's why he gets caught on the ship that was a colony ship that they turned into a weapon, and the female space pirates attack. Due to an accident, they're warped far away from their home planet, and some shit goes down, and like Hibiki, along with two other men, wind up getting caught, basically on this ship of women, and they have to learn to live together. So it's semi-comedic, and like the hilarious
high
thing,
tension and high comedy in a sense, because they have to work together, and tensions rise as fast as blood pressures.
Well, yeah. The hilarious thing about Van Dread is just like everything is just a metaphor for sex, because like the dreads are the female characters' jet things that they pilot, and basically due to the accident, there's like 3 of the ships are changed into these things called like are upgraded, and they can fuse together. The three female characters' ships called Dreads confused with his van, and that's where you get the name Van Dread.
And ladies and gentlemen, the sexual innuendos continue.
Oh, but it gets worse. There's a character. There's a character called Dita who is fascinated with Hibiki. Like she's utterly fascinated with him. She calls him Mr. Alien in the anime. And in the manga, like he's never as much of an asshole in the anime, in the manga as he is in the anime. But they had to tell an interesting story. But she's always chasing him down. She's like, Mr. Alien. And she's like talking. She's like, I heard men have a tube that they go to the bathroom between their legs. And she's like, I want to see your. She's like, I want to see your tube. He's like, get away from me! Get the hell away from me! Like he's totally like, get the fuck away from me! Because like the society that he grows up in, because men and women are separated, he has no concept of women, which is hilarious because the running joke is if you're a dude and watching, he's like, she wants me to go to her room. I have no idea what I'm going to do if I go to her room. And I'm watching, I'm like, I know what I'd do if I went to her room.
If anything, you got to remember that the men and women were always separate in that show. Meaning that they have interesting interactions when they're together.
Well, not entirely true, because there's an episode in the show, the Christmas episode, where they managed to, remember, old colony ship. They managed to open up one of the compartments, and out come these old holotapes, and they watch an old holotape of a man and his wife and their little baby, along with a little girl celebrating Christmas. Now, it turns out later on that the baby is Hibiki, and the little girl is the captain of the pirates, this old lady, who actually turns out to be Hibiki's sister. So,
okay, I can hear the tensions already rising from that alone.
He was in cryogenic stasis, so he doesn't, time has good changed.
Memory from that.
Well, no, I mean, he was in, basically, you have to remember, he was probably put in cryogenic stasis when he's like a little baby. And so it slowed down his aging. So he wasn't supposed to wake up that early, but he does. Like there's this thing where he wakes up and he shows up when they basically have a big grand battle between them and the Earth fleet that's basically been going around harvesting other human colonies in order to take their organs and prolong their own life. And basically the leader of the female pirates is his mother. She's like, Hibiki? He's like, it's Hibiki. Because parents are going to know their kids. But it's kind of an interesting thing. Van Dread is a really good manga. The manga is even better than the anime, really. But they're both equally good. I have two others here, Battlestar Galactica and Doctor Who. But
Doctor Who, I can say I've heard the most about, but I'm iffy with it.
Well, I'm not a huge Doctor Who fan personally. That's not true.
Even there.
I like certain series of Doctor Who. I like John Hurt. For those of you who don't know who John Hurt is the guy who played Ash in an Alien, the guy who gets face raped by the face hugger, and violated by the chest burster.
That's a lot to take in.
He also plays that same character in Spaceballs, who's like, oh no, not again. Yeah, and he plays and it comes out and says, hello my honey, hello my baby, hello my ragtime.
Oh, I know that frog song anywhere. From
Michigan J Frog. But basically, that's John Hurt. He used to be one of the Doctor Who doctors. I actually liked him as a Doctor Who doctor. He's one of my personal favorites.
You don't know which number he is, but he is funny.
He was a pretty good doctor. The new Doctor Who's, I actually am not a huge fan of. I didn't like the young guy. I didn't like the old guy. Anthony, what's his name? I liked David Eccleston and David Tennant. I like them. because David Tennant really pulled off playing Doctor Who really well. Like being a smug asshole who thinks he's always right until he's not, and he's totally fucked up. You know, like David Tennant and David Eccleston were two of my favorite Doctors. But aside from that, that's it. So anything you want to bring up? We're at the wrap up and conclusion stage.
Well, if anything, I'll just say this right now. If anybody's going to be coming back tomorrow, we'll be in the BS Busters, and we'll be having our own talking about if I got it right, Dragon Quest XI, right?
Yes, and other Dragon Quest games. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah. So if anything, I kind of wish that they hurry up with Dragon Quest for Nintendo systems already, but I'll hold on.
Look, I wasn't going to wait that long. I got mine on sale for like $47 off of Green Man Gaming. I said, fuck it, and bought it, called it a day.
Yeah, I'm more the patient type.
Well, I mean, I just, I mean, you know,
I can understand you. I can understand you're impatient. You want it now. Well, give me.
No, it's gonna be cheaper now. Like waiting till next year. It'll probably be out next year. Wait until next year to get it out, just so that I can play it on the Switch. And the only, in my opinion, the only bonus for waiting till it comes out on the Switch is that it'll probably have some gameplay fixes and like design changes, making it easier to play that it doesn't have on the current versions. Just because, you know, they will have taken in player feedback and shit, but I mean, it's still going to be a $60 game probably. So like, I mean, like I can get something for literally like $13 cheaper on PC, and I mean, it's not portable, but I mean, shit, I don't really use the portable aspect of my Switch, so that's not really a concern for me.
That's the funny thing. I barely use it myself because of anything I know, because I know people are gonna complain, but I'll say it again because people are not gonna listen. The Switch is a console that you can pick up and take with you. It's a portable console. It is not a portable like the 3DS.
Yeah, it is not. It's not a dedicated handheld. It's a portable console. And to tell you the truth, I mean, I don't really use the portable aspect. I might use it Monday because I'm going to the movies Columbus Day, and I might take my Switch with me and not play a little Tetris game on my smartphone. I'll pull out my Switch and play that a little bit, but maybe play some Final Fight. I'm really enjoying the beat 'em ups on that system. But
yeah, if anything, I at least recommend the game that I was playing, which would be Battleship Brigade. But I'm not sure how fast you could be cooking in that game.
Oh no, I have that on PC. That's a really good game. I enjoy that game. I think the PC version has mod support, so you can mod in on Steam. You can mod in different character models. Right now, I have Earthworm Jim.
Earthworm Jim.
Yeah, it's weird, man. You hit people with his head. It's funny, but yeah. So basically, tomorrow, BS Busters, 7:30 to 9. This episode went a little bit longer, but what can I say? I'm a huge science fiction nerd, so and I
don't blame you on that.
So that's the end of the video. Thank you and peace.
And hype responsibly.